Welcome, listeners, to Le Grand Bouffe.
The Big Feast.
With myself, Cole Smithey, and my co-host, Mike Lacy. As always, we are here to copiously consume international politics and culture through the prism of a single film and a different craft beer each week. And for this first 4 weeks of 2018, we have dedicated ourselves to 4 French films, and this one by Bertrand Blier is the final one of the series.
Nom, 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 we're consuming. I thought you were going to kick it to me sooner, so when I was going to say nom, 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 it would have been more directly connected to you saying consuming politics. But, you know, so nom, 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 here I'm going. So we watched a movie. Which, you want me to explain behind the curtain of how we got to see this movie?
Yeah, I really do, because it's a funny little story.
So I went to the Alamo Draft House last week to see I, Tonya, and before that, I went to a little French restaurant with my girlfriend. It's called Café Paulette, and I went to the bathroom, and while urinating, I was looking at the poster behind La Toilette, and it was for a movie that had Gérard Depardieu, and I took a picture. I texted Cole as an aside saying, this looks like a movie we would do in our podcast. And then when we're having our weekly what are we doing this week email, I saw that I had apparently signed us up for it, so we watched it. So that's the grand backstory of how we came to see this movie. It turns out it is a infamous film.
Quite an interesting and infamous film. Les Valsuises, which I believe is the testicles.
I believe it's the avocado.
Right. In Leonard Lopez.
In Leonard Lopez terms. Yeah. You should just Google it, everybody. We've been talking about that a lot.
So, yes, behind the scenes, we've been talking about Mr. Lopez's dismissal from NPR, which involved the etymology of the word avocado, which is testicle.
It actually is, yeah. I like that he was contacted about it by a newspaper to clarify why he was fired, and one of the notes that he had on his firing is that the etymology of the word avocado, as he, in this follow-up interview, he later explained it is interesting. That was sort of his defense. Is like, it's an interesting etymology. I don't disagree. Maybe good and bad times to bring it up. But
yeah, that and $2.50 will get you fired on a cup of coffee at Starbucks.
Yeah. So we watched this film, and it's a doozy. If you're looking for a hard-to-defend movie heavy in misogyny, this is a good way to go. But I don't know. How do you want to approach this one? We had a recent episode where I made a point at every juncture to discuss problematic elements and to look at it. This one is just a ride through hell of using people and just unvarnished aggressive masculinity. And you know what? I kind of say for this one, let's take it on its own terms. Let's not have to. Let's leave aside a bit of the PC heavy rhetoric. Obviously, these guys are shitty. Don't do these things. Fuck these two main characters. That said, what's this movie about?
Well, Bertrand Blier wrote a novel, called Les Valsuises, which translates into English as the waltzers, and that's a vulgar French slang term for the testicles.
The waltzers, not the walnuts, the walters?
The waltzers. Two people waltzing.
Oh, the waltzers. Yeah. Oh, so it's like, yeah, I got kicked in the waltzers.
Yeah, while they were waltzing. I was waltzing with my waltzers, and yeah, that other thing. So...
yeah,
and so it's one of Gérard Depardieu's earliest films. I'm trying to. It's from 1974. I want to see exactly where that falls in Mr. Depardieu's lineage, but nonetheless, it is about two guys. Depardieu's character is 25, and his best friend is 23.
Is Depardieu 25 to you?
Yeah.
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 I thought he was like 36.
Oh, in this movie?
But also 74. Maybe he must have been like 25. He couldn't have been much older. But he's his.
And they're anarchists. They are complete. They're petty criminals.
Well, they're not intellectual anarchists. They are anarchy. They are chaotic evil on, like, you know, that chart of like where you place characters. They're just sort of chaos. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, they don't have any political agenda, which I think makes their anarchy all the more
authentic, right?
Sincere. They just don't give a fuck about anything. They barely. But there's a unity to them. They're of similar height. Depardieu's a little bit taller, but when they walk in a similar stride. They're frequently running away from situations.
They kind of duck walk,
and so they have a similar gait, and they do things in a kind of unison. So it seems like there's a brotherliness to them. There's the synchronicity between these two male characters. They're bisexual. There does come.
At least one of them is.
Right. Well, yeah. Depardieu definitely sticks it in his pal's bum because it's natural. That's what.
It's what friends do.
That's what friends do.
He rapes his friend, and it's like not addressed ever again. But it starts with them harassing a woman on the street.
They're following her down the street, and they're gonna rob her, but they're also gonna taunt her about her comeliness as they approach her, and Depardieu's character is ridiculously riding in a shopping cart. So
yeah.
Depardieu with his long gangly legs all bent up in this shopping cart while his friend pushes him. It's pretty silly business, and the music is gypsy guitar style of music, so it gives the movie this false lilt of joyfulness that otherwise the movie would seem much darker without the musical lilt that's given.
Because it's just following these guys committing minor to major atrocities, but it has the light fun of a con movie, a movie where people are excusably evil, or almost like the Jackass movies.
Yeah. They're pranksters.
It makes you the movie maybe thinks of them this lightly, but truly their actions, and if it was scored differently, it would be funny games, right?
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it comes close to that tone. I did want to point out that Depardieu made his first appearance in a short film, Le Beatnik et les Minutes, in 1967, and this is 1974. So he had done some television stuff, and he had done Cry of the Cormoran in 71, and a couple of other smaller films before he got to this in 1974. So he had been around the block a lot. It's just before he made this movie.
In the last movie we did with him, it just always strikes me what a large hulking figure he is. He's only similar to Arnold Schwarzenegger or Dolph Lundgren. American movie stars are always a bit more svelte, or they just carry their bulk differently. You put in this movie, and it's hard to picture him as an everyman. You imagine every role he's in, people would just comment on, "You're jacked." It's not modern muscle tone. It's just this broad-chested, imposing. Like he walks into a room and everyone would be like, "What the hell is this guy?" He's got the worst
haircut of anyone. It's just nuts. The ugliest haircut.
He has a 14-year-old girl's haircut.
It's like a Dutch boy haircut. We're watching the movie as we're talking about it, and there's a scene where they're sniffing a girl's panties that they have found. They've entered this town during the off season, and they've broken into one of the apartments, and they're sizing up how old the girl who whose panties these belong to.
And they decide it's very young.
Might be.
They're very excited about it being 14 to 16. They're real fucking creepoids.
Yeah. But that's how so it's established pretty early on that these guys are they're like dogs. They're like animals, really. All they think about are sniffing panties and stealing money and finding women to have sex with.
I have no idea why it's called Going Places in English, but the original title is like basically like the nuts, the balls, right? They are two lumbering testicles marauding around France.
Yeah.
And that makes the movie make a lot more sense.
So it was widely considered one of the most controversial movies.
I get that.
In French history. I think it's funny that Mike came up with this movie because he's always beating me up about how how gnarly my subject matter is. That's why I really wouldn't mind just doing another month's worth of French movies just to see where it all leads, because I'm sure it would go deeper in this vein of
well, maybe we should do German and we can
bodily fluids. Sure that would certainly go darker.
Yeah.
So because of its vulgarity and depiction of sexual acts, nudity, and moral ambiguity. However, Bertrand Blier's later acclaim for the rest of his filmography made this movie a cult film among critics, and you might be interested to know that there's an English language remake.
Really?
Yep, directed by John Turturro.
What?
Yeah.
Was that pretty recent?
I don't think it's come out yet. I think it stars Susan Sarandon and Bobby Cannavale, if that's the one that I'm thinking of.
That, huh?
Yeah.
Do they play the duo? Are they the nutsack?
I don't think it would work to have a man and a woman. Oh yeah,
maybe.
Okay, so all right, so this one it's it's written by Blier, and so it is a spinoff of The Big Lebowski, centered on the notable bowler Jesus Quintana.
Wait, what?
This is what I'm telling you. This is true. It's going to come out this year. It's a comedy drama, rated R, almost 2 hours long, and they use a very similar. No, that's a different poster. Audrey Tautou, Sonia Braga, and of course Bobby Cannavale.
I love Bobby Cannavale.
I do too. He's awesome. I saw him on the subway platform about a year ago.
That's cool.
And yeah, it was at 59th Street, and he was walking on the platform, getting lined up, doing the pre-walk, getting lined up for the door that he wanted to be on, and he just looked like the happiest guy on the planet. He looked like the guy who was he was the New York actor, just living his day, just having the time of his life. It was a pretty fun thing to see.
He seems like he's at the level of fame where you see him on the subway and don't go up and like talk to him for a while, but just go, "Hey, Bobby!" And he'd be like, "What's up, bro?" Just go, "Boardwalk dog, love it, see ya," and he'd be like, "Thank you."
Yeah.
Subscribe to HBO, get your own account. Thank you.
Oh, I think it's funny that if you go to IMDb, that they have the original Going Places poster on the John Turturro's 2018 page. It really makes it's very disconcerting.
Wait, so it
makes no sense at all.
Is it a remake or is it just called that?
I don't know. It's hard. It's written by Blier, so it's somehow based on this story.
That's truly bizarre.
It's very, very bizarre.
That's very Coen-y. I really hope they continue to make Coen spin-offs that are actually spin-offs of other movies and just create this weird mesh
synergy, this weird cinematic lineage.
You know what the Coens would say about Going Places if you asked them about it?
About this movie?
Yeah, you know what they would say?
Tell me.
Knowing that they're making a spin-off based on it, what they would say about this movie is,
yeah.
"Oh, I've never seen it."
Right.
Yeah, oh, which movie?
Right.
France?
Right.
Was that a country? They made like 4 movies based on the Odyssey, but they're like, yeah, I keep meaning to read that. Like, oh yeah, I never read it.
Yeah.
They just love that little mystery and cloud of intention.
Well, they like to play their cards close to the chest. So these two, they like stealing automobiles, motorcycles, whatever. They try and steal this guy's Citroen DS at the beginning.
They're really into these DSs.
And the guy he's some kind of mobster guy, and he's with his little cute girlfriend played by Miou-Miou, who is very sexy and cute throughout the whole movie, because she is certainly in the entire film. And so he shoots, speaking of testicles, he shoots at the boys, and
which I may qualify as the inciting incident, is grazing the testicle of Depardieu's little friend.
Yeah.
And it sets up an arc where that guy cannot please a woman and is afraid that he cannot ever orgasm.
So that's Pierrot,
again.
played by Patrick Dewar. And yeah, he finally gets himself together. It's just been grazed, but they end up breaking into the home of a gynecologist who is able to patch him up, as it were, and they rob that guy.
He heals his avocado.
And so really the movie it's this episodic tale of who and what they are going to rob next.
And they
take Miou-Miou with her.
They take
the
Miou-Miou,
girl.
who's something like their sex slave.
Marie Ang is her name, is the character's name.
At first they trade her to a guy who owns a junk lot, and it's very dark and weird, where she doesn't seem to be upset about it. They come back
for her because they don't have her initially.
Yeah,
they jump on a train, and what I found to be one of the most distressing sequences in the movie, where they attack this poor woman who is on her way to see her soldier boyfriend, and she's nursing a baby, and they're thugs. They're just horrible thugs, and they're
next level sex criminal monster weirdos.
They're so frightening, and they're the only ones on the train car, and so they go back and they Gérard Depardieu makes her suckle Pierrot. Jean-Claude is Depardieu's character's name.
And it'd be one thing if the movie depicts scenes like that as dark and makes you sit in that awkwardness, but it consistently has scenes like that go to a place where, and she's like totally into it.
Yeah, she starts getting into it.
So it's telling you something about the writing and the sophomoricness of where it's coming from. It's not these guys are deeply detached from reality. It's a reality where, everyone just wants to fuck and everyone wants to get a nut. It's the whole, women sign up to hang out with them. They abuse Miou-Miou and they beat her. They tag team having sex with her, but she's not getting off, not because they're awful, but because she just doesn't know how yet, and there's a micro arc of her learning to have an orgasm, and it's perhaps there's an interpretation. I went through reviews trying to find takes from the time when this came out about what this is really talking about, but it is on a surface, and then 1 or 2 levels under that, sophomoric, gross, like hyper masculine in a gross way.
He wrote the novel. Blier wrote the novel in 1972. So it really seems to be. I mean, I don't know his story. Where he got the inspiration to write the novel or any of that stuff, but it seems to be written out of just a complete rejection for society and society's norms and any kind of moral or ethical responsibility. And so it's these two male characters who really just live for immediate gratification, not unlike the current president of the United States, who's somebody who only understands immediate gratification.
Well, that's the one person I would equate to these dudes, yeah. Every review from then brought up Bonnie and Clyde.
Uh-huh.
There was a lot of comparison, which was 67?
Sounds
I
right.
believe. Bonnie and Clyde, which is... it gets a visual shout out in the post. Did you notice that? Can I talk about the post for a second? You saw the post.
Yeah.
So there's an inaccuracy in the post, which is where I'm blanking.
You're talking about the movie with Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
The Spielberg film.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the name of the guy who leaked those. Daniel Ellsworth. He is shown taking documents and copying them at a Kinko's type place.
Yeah.
He actually did it at the Rand Corporation using his children to help copy it. But what they gained from going to that copying place, I noticed, is about 2.5 seconds of visual time of movie posters, including Bonnie and Clyde, kind of anchoring it in this
time period.
But specifically revolutionary, anti-establishment art. And so it's just another example, and you read a lot of texts about like the death of Hollywood and like what it really meant, and that Bonnie and Clyde is this lingo to so many people, so of going against the studio system, emblematic of the counterculture, and it is clearly people are connecting it to this movie because you have a homoerotic Bonnie and Clyde type team here.
Element, yeah. And one of the characters who may or may not be impotent. So,
oh right, that's a Clyde thing. I forgot about that. Yeah,
that's Clyde. So, tell us about the beer that you chose, Mr. Lacy.
It's a tiny little brewery. Tiny little brewery, Goose Island, a big Chicago brewery. What's craft these days anymore? It's all megacorps. It's not Goose Island. But this is a 4-star Pilsner.
Yeah, it's owned by they're owned by Anheuser-Busch.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, fuck.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, what do you think of this Pilsner, though? Do you like Pilsner? Are you going for...
I am not a Pilsner person at all, but I have to say, and I've had... This is one of the beers that when you go to the ball game, they pass off as IPA.
Yeah, I wouldn't confuse a Pilsner for an IPA on taste. Certainly, they're a bit hoppy, right? But there's definitely a different.
I mean, it's remarkable. It's remarkable how much it tastes like a Budweiser. It still has that same.
I don't know if I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
there's so much. There's so much more
Budweiser aftertaste.
I disagree. There's no there's a crispness to this that you're gonna go. You drink a Bud, and basically I don't think Bud has an aftertaste really. It's just water.
It does. But anyway, yeah.
I don't know. It's one of the least interesting things that we brought in lately, but. All right, we don't have a lot to say about it.
I give you an F for your craft beer your non-craft beer choice.
All right. Well, I give my choice of movie an F too. So.
Oh really? You give the movie an F?
Do I give the movie an F? Maybe. No, I mean, if I had to come up with a really bullshit way to recommend something, like I either said see it or don't see it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I would never have an answer that covered all people I was recommending to.
Yeah.
But there are definitely people that, knowing their taste, I would recommend checking this out. There's merits to it, if nothing more than a historical artifact.
When Jeanne Moreau comes along, the movie really kicks into high gear.
I wish it stayed in that.
Yeah,
a little longer.
I do too.
If not the entire second half, but let's talk about it because
it gets really interesting because these guys they go to a bowling alley and buy a couple girls some beer, and they're not making any bones about let's not waste any time. Let's go to bed right now.
We're here to score.
And the girls are appropriately appalled, and so they they just get up and leave because that they're going to find girls who want to play ball like they do, or they're not going to play ball at all, and Depardieu's character comes up with this brainstorm about where he can find 300 really horny women.
It's like my greatest idea ever. It's my masterpiece. He's the brains of the operation, which is terrifying.
Pretty scary. I mean, where do they go?
Yeah, they go to a women's prison.
They're waiting outside a woman's prison for who's getting let loose that day.
Yeah.
And who should it be but Jeanne Moreau, about a year or two before she would marry William Friedkin after his success from The Exorcist. Maybe even not even. It might have been right around the same time as this film.
Did his wife before her die in a car accident?
William Friedkin?
Yeah.
You're teaching me something. I don't know.
I think he had a spouse that died in a car accident.
Really?
I believe so.
Oh, we're gonna have to look into that. But so she gets out of prison, and she's a very attractive middle-aged woman who is she's amenable to playing along with a couple of petty criminals.
The movie thus far has been what I would call a rapescapade.
Yeah,
and then it goes into this very odd. Very.
Well, they respect her. They have a regard for her. And they buy her clothes.
They're in a very beautiful country.
They want to. They want to. This is somebody who they want to extend some human kindness to, which is strange that all of a sudden this is happening, but we witness it, and
there's something believable about these psychos who they're addicted to these moments of elation, and just they see their next high being doing a good deed, and of tossing a lei, as they might say, to someone in need.
Yeah, and they're certainly they're free-loving bisexual guys, so they're happy to share alike. And they take her to a fancy seaside lunch, and she propositions them.
They go to the hotel.
But not before telling the.
Oh, that was really bizarre.
Telling the owner, giving
for a hot minute, you forget that this is written by a clearly horny, weird dude. There's something sensual, next level about it. It gave me a lot of hope for the movie. Well, I think it was Ebert's review I read today that said that when Jeanne Moreau shows up, you think for a minute that she might murder these guys, and we just follow her for the rest of the movie. And I love that movie.
Yeah.
All
right, I did want to set the record straight that William Friedkin has been married 4 times. None of his spouses died from a car crash, and Jeanne Moreau was his first wife. Whom he married in February of 1977 and divorced in 1979.
There's someone I'm trying to was it Bogdanovich? There's someone in that crew that
well, he left his wife under very no bueno terms because he was picked up Sybil Shepherd when he was shooting the Last Picture Show.
Now I have confidence that the person I'm thinking was Bogdanovich, but I was just thinking about Friedkin, so I have no confidence. But there's someone who had a in that 70s U.S. scene lost a wife who I think was a model in a car accident. But back to this, right? So, like I was saying, Ebert points out that you think for a moment that the tone has really shifted. We've gained this perspective, and that maybe now we're going to follow this woman. But after they sleep with her, I'm sorry, we never finished what you were saying is at this restaurant, she speaks to the owner,
the proprietor,
about how she's no longer menstruating. The dialogue is very...
It's
crass,
it's very
and
crass,
weird,
and she's going out of her way to make this statement as a woman about the value of menstruation and how she misses it, and it's just
it's fucking weird.
It's totally bizarre, and it makes you question her sanity, and it's a proper thing.
That's what it did. That's what it made.
And it's a right thing, because she's not sane, and she has a plan. And what you start to realize is that as much as she has fallen into the plans of these two young Philistines, they've really fallen into her plan, because they have the thing that she wants to use, which is a gun.
Oh, she's just in it for their gun.
Yeah.
This is the point where the movie fully feels to me like these characters wrote this movie, where she kills herself with this gun by shooting herself
in the vagina.
Mm-hmm. Which
it does make for a very graphic image.
I don't think that's a instant death. You know, they find her, they hear the gunshot, they shoot out of bed. It's very startling.
Yeah.
That's what if we haven't said enough, this is very good filmmaking. That's a thing that is frustrating about this film, and I think has given it a bit of its infamousness, is it's not schlock, it's very talented cinematography and directing. And also, I think it's very dramatic when they hear this shot from the other room.
And the whole Going Places title is apropos for the film, because the movie is one long chase from the very opening scene right up to the end. It's this ongoing episodic chase. They're pursuing something, or they're being pursued. One of the interesting things that I find in the movie is that there's really only once in the movie where they come into a confrontation with authority, and that's the guy at the supermarket. It's a pretty hilarious
not the police
scene.
Yeah, they're chased. They're chased by, villagers. Yeah. Multiple times.
Yeah.
To no effect.
And so they're never really held accountable by anyone for their misdeeds, of which there are countless.
So compared to like a Bonnie and Clyde, where you have people on the run from the law.
Well, in Bonnie and Clyde, they have their comeuppance, and they have several encounters with the law.
Right. And so it's notably absent that they're not being arrested, they're not being drawn up on charges, people are trying to resolve it themselves, and they get in shootouts. And so
and weird things happen, and the way that things happen, there's a naturalism to the way that these violent episodes break out. I'm thinking about the one involving the son, where the son wants to go rob somebody.
The son of Jeanne Moreau. Jeanne Moreau kills herself. Jeanne Moreau kills herself, and they befriend her son, was trying to find his mother.
Yeah, he gets out of jail.
So he was in jail too.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
It's all very weird. And then Miu-Miu intimidates them into going along, because they give the guy the gun. They don't care. Good luck. Go do your thing. And she says, "Oh, I tell you, they wouldn't have the guts to help you out." And they jump up immediately. They take the bait and they go with him. And they don't know where they're going. They're going to somebody's house. They're going to rob somebody's house. And then it turns out that he knows the guy. Like, the guy's a pal. And it's very strange what transpires there, because the guy gets shot. What happens to the son? We don't know.
They leave, and then they kill someone to steal his car. So there's one thing that is happening is it's escalation.
Yeah.
It's the classic with violent, homicidal killers, or people who become killers, is they're starting in these sort of kind of petty theft, sex crime games, and they're escalating to being killers, and they're out on the run, and they're just always on the run. They don't get caught. They drive off into, not the sunset, into a dark tunnel.
Yeah.
But you're left very much asking, what is this about?
Well, yeah, and also why why does anyone's life have any value? They finally they steal another car. I have no idea how many cars they steal in this movie. At least a half dozen, and they come around the bend, and there's some people that are inexplicably enjoying their summer day at the corner of a road, and then they go out of their way to back the car up and blast exhaust in the faces of the people, outraging the people, making them chase them, and it would really this climax of the movie happens with this perfect family that are out on a little. You wouldn't even call it it's a stream. They've pulled their.
It feels like they ran out of sets, locations.
They've pulled their Citroen DS one more time with that car, and the dad we find out is an engineer, and the daughter is the 16-year-old. Did you recognize the daughter? Isabelle Hubert.
Oh, that's Isabelle Hubert?
That is Isabelle Hubert when she must have been 16.
And it is a callback to the impossibly the girl whose home they broke into and were smelling her.
Right, because her name is Juliet.
I guess it may not be,
but
is Jacqueline.
Jacqueline. They're happy to imagine that it is her, and she is the stereotypical misanthropic daughter who is only too happy to trade her parents for the young gangsters and their girlfriend.
A lot of the reviews that I read talk about.
How many reviews did you read?
I read the New York Times review, the Ebert review, and then skimmed some Rotten Tomatoes review. This has an 86 on Rotten Tomatoes, an 86% fresh score, which I find very impressive.
Well, that's because there's hardly any female film critics in the world.
Well, it is one of these movies. Like, if you're going to watch it, you're I guess you probably know you're going to like it enough to write a review. Like, that's kind of a response bias.
I don't know how many reviews are. I can't even imagine that there are that many reviews. I don't think
there were that many. But what I was going to say is a lot bring up the concept, the philosophic concept of nihilism, which I didn't study in school formally, and have read just really sparse things of Camus and Sartre. But one thing they say is that there's a veneer of nihilism as a philosophy draped on these people very loosely. But you know what? No, it's like, if you don't believe in anything, that's what this is what it looks like. It's not some sexy thing that you put on, like, oh, nothing means anything. So rules are bullshit, man. Dealing with these.
I see 3 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
How can it have an 86 if there's 3 reviews? It doesn't make sense mathematically.
That's a good question. I'm trying to figure that out. Okay, now I see there are 7. There are 7 reviews, and one of them is negative.
Is that how that works? I don't know math. But I would say, in defense of this being a thing, this is what it looks like to not believe in anything. Did you ever have friends that identified as nihilists?
No, I didn't run with the goth crowd.
Yeah, that's kind of who, in the last couple of decades, who you would run into is goths. Like, fuck it, man, doesn't mean anything. Rules are bullshit. I mean, the closest you get are like libertarians, right? Like that's nihilism turned political in a certain way. But
I'm trying to even find a review, and it's funny. I'm on Rotten Tomatoes, and I keep clicking on what should be a review, and it doesn't even take me anywhere.
I actually saw, I read the New York Times, I read the Ebert, but then I just saw the little excerpts of them. I couldn't click through to them.
I have to say that the Rotten Tomatoes reviews are pretty shitey. Pretty shitey. I'm going to have to write a review just to set the record straight. No, there isn't. None of these. There's one link that goes to a review out of all these things.
So, fresh or rotten? That's our new segment, Fresh or Run.
I'm gonna say it's so rotten it's fresh.
Oh no.
Yeah, man, I'm going all the way down. I'm
I-
going all the way into the bottom of the abyss of nihilism, and I'm saying that this movie is so stinking rotten it's fresh.
Whoa, that is out of control.
Yeah.
It's my thing. It's just like to him, like it's very subjective to me. If I would suggest to watch a movie, you know, would I suggest you watch this movie? I'd say you should watch it.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think you're gonna love it. That's the other thing is like maybe I think you're gonna watch it and dislike most of it, yet still not regret your experience. Did you regret watching this film?
No, not at all.
Yeah,
I found it really, and we're watching the scene right now with Jeanne Moreau, and I think, you know, just everything that she does is so watchable. It's so intriguing. Who is this person? And her expressions are so muted, you just can't help but try and figure out what's behind that inscrutable facade of hers. And also, you know, it's this thing about people, I think Americans especially, they want everything handed to them on a plate. Mm-hmm. They want everything explained. They want to come away and they want to have a nice little fuzzy feeling in their belly. This movie does not give you any of that.
No.
There's nothing spelled out. There's no fuzzy ending. There's no bow tied. This movie is just energy. It's raw libido and social cataclysms, and you got to figure it out. And I think much more so than the last movie that we did, Rendezvous, this one really hangs you out to dry. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty rare experience that you can watch a movie and have that much responsibility put on your shoulders. And so I you know, that's refreshing. I like that experience. It's different. It sure is different. You know, it doesn't feel like anybody's trying to hold my hand. Nobody's talking down to me. If there's one thing I hate, man, it's people talking down to me. And I mean, all American movies talk down to their audiences. You know, they dumb themselves down for their audiences. And that's just baloney.
What's interesting about this movie is it is in a lot of ways inscrutable. You know, mystery is the key thing to creating drama. This is one of those films that the mystery is a bit, what is the movie about? What are we really waiting to happen? Where's it going? But there's a funny thing about this film is it seems to know what it is. It's scored very specifically. It's acted very specifically. It is filmed very specifically. Yet until the very end and afterwards to this point, I'm like, well, what kind of movie is this? What it's so confident, it explodes out of a worldview, and I'm like, I don't get what is your what
yeah.
You know, and that's a fascinating thing.
There's no clear protagonist. I think if you were gonna,
no one saves a cat.
Yeah, if you were looking for who's the most empathetic character, clearly it's
Miu-Miu.
It's Miu-Miu. She doesn't, you know, she doesn't save any cats, but she's certainly the one who's getting abused. But it's still, she's the one who has a breakthrough because she learns to orgasm, which is a big deal, and she gets punished for it, which is also very weird. So there's this whole.
It's a big deal, but it's such a male gaze bullshit, terrible.
Right, and that's and
dignified.
It's really ugly, and so she gets punished for finally achieving this thing that she didn't even really knew she was missing, but these guys were very concerned about the fact that they weren't able to do it, and so they have this really petty, immature jealousy, hatred, upsetness, anger about it, and so there's a lot about this movie that reduces human beings down to these animalistic behaviors and intentions.
You have to wonder if you were perhaps the generation that fought in World War II and was seeing the 60s and 70s and the the sexual revolution.
Yeah, you'd be eating your heart out.
Exactly. Maybe that is who this movie made the most sense to. It's be like, that's what I'm talking about. Is that just they grow their hair long and they just have no fucking values and they're falling apart. There's something.
They have sex with these are men having sex with each other. They're indoctrinating young girls to have sex, group sex.
Exactly. It is the nightmare. Ooh, I think I got like a review right here. It's the nightmare of the old generation turned into the fantasy of the current generation. Mm-hmm. It's the misunderstanding of
They're fucking in the middle of the road. They're in the car. The cars in the middle.
Cars are for driving.
It's in the middle of an intersection. There's a 4-way intersection, and they're stopped at an angle in the middle of the intersection, and they're fucking in the back seat of the car.
You know how
when David Cronenberg, did you see this movie?
I bet he did. you know how another person's ideology you only focus on that you disagree with. You only focus on the problematic parts of it.
Yeah.
People who want to promote the value of a family look at liberal culture and they say everyone is just completely individualistic and they create this nightmare thing. This is taking the dark sides of the ideology you don't agree with and saying that's my favorite part. I'm only about that and not infusing it with any argument towards like bisexuality is great. Why we should all be like Miu-Miu and not be concerned with behaving completely by regular standards of sexuality. It's okay to have a lot of partners. Don't be abused by them and essentially like a sex slave. But it doesn't cherish.
Don't do that.
It doesn't cherish the positive parts of the sexual revolution. It only focuses on the most propagandistic, horrible parts of this culture change and celebrates them as if that's the best part of it. And that makes this more interesting to me.
It's very interesting. And, the sex scene with Jeanne Moreau and the two guys, they're all having fun. They're down for it. And
that's the
only
what they're doing.
Non-super
weird, upsetting sex scene is the two of them and Jeanne Moreau having sex in a hotel, followed up swiftly by a very 13-year-old's way for a woman to kill herself. 13-year-old boy's way for a woman to kill herself dramatically in a film.
Yeah.
Because again, you're not going to die right away. It's like she shot herself in the head, but it's so.
I don't know. I don't know the. Depending on the angle of the bullet, it doesn't seem like you would. It seems like you'd have to bleed out. Yeah, it doesn't seem.
Oh, is it connected to
the menstruation
thing? Because there's blood. Oh,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But but that's the thing about this movie is it's one of the most uncomfortable movies that you'll ever watch. It's certainly not a date movie. Don't dial this one up to watch with your girlfriend of 6 weeks, thinking that you're going to have a cozy conversation afterwards.
Murmur of the Heart may be more uncomfortable.
Well, Murmur of the Heart's a pretty. Anytime it's
been a challenging month.
Anytime there's incest involved, it's gonna be upsetting. There's a tragic. Incest, I think, is always a tragedy.
I'll agree.
It's a tragic. That's what it's all this stuff that we were talking about with Oedipus. That's a tragedy. It's all tragic. That is if you're looking for a boundary that's not crossed in this film, it's that notably, that's except that these guys maybe are brothers. No,
wait,
no, we don't. I'm just saying stuff. No, we don't know. I have no idea.
Maybe that's what's going to come out in the John Turturro reboot.
All I know is the John Turturro reboot will not be any good. And
why do you think that?
Because reboots, redos, whatever, they're never any good. I mean, I take it back. William Friedkin actually is one of the few people who did reimagine Wages of Fear with Sorcerer, and Sorcerer is every bit as good as the Wages of Fear.
I haven't seen Sorcerer. We should do that.
It's a great movie. But Roy Scheider's just terrific in that movie. But it's fun doing French films, and I think we got to keep coming back to French movies whenever we can.
We now have a playlist on SoundCloud just of French movies because that's one of our through lines. I think we're going to be, by the time this airs, up to maybe 12 of about 85 maybe.
I didn't know.
We're stone's throw from 100, Cole.
I knew we're closing in on 100 episodes. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Time flies so fast. But we have all sorts of fun things lined up for you guys, our friendly listeners out there who we really hope correspond with us. I know that we've had some listeners in Portugal recently. Thanks for listening in Portugal. Lisbon particularly. My wife and I will be visiting Porto in March, hopefully. So, yeah, I look forward to visiting your country.
Let's get some suggestions of some Portuguese films to watch.
Yeah, we'll have to come. Yeah, send us your favorite Portuguese movie. Maybe we can do that. That would be fun. Anything else, Mike?
That's it for me.
So we're going to have some fun stuff coming up. We're going to be doing some live broadcasts from bars such as 3rd Avenue Ale House and Treadwell Park, as well as breweries. I know we're planning on visiting the new Fifth Hammer Brewery out in Long Island City. So we're going to be delving more into the craft beer zone and more fun guests for you guys. So please drop us a line. Goldsmithy at Gmail is where you can reach me.